What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi, my guy Eric Sheetable. We're going to be talking through this big Friday slate. I'm actually excited about this one. It's kind of a fun slate, and did okay on baseball last night. Did not do so well in football. Didn't get the right mix. Sheets, how did you do? And then we'll get into the slate.
That was, by the way, that was the cleanest win the Jets have had in like 10 years.
Yeah,
it was against the Patriots, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, not for a moment was the game in doubt. They were better defensively, better offensively. Rodgers looked great. They displayed both their running backs. They had whatchamacallit, and Mike Williams was running deep routes. He's probably back in a major role, forward. And between him, Lazard, and Garrett Wilson, I mean, you have the team's legit in a parity league. It's going to be interesting if they can keep Rodgers healthy. They're legit contenders in the AFC.
Yeah, absolutely. I said they're going to have to prove it to me, and last night they proved it to me. So
well, I mean, like you said, I mean they proved that they could beat the Patriots handily, like probably 13 other teams are going to do this year.
Right. But I was impressed by the way they moved the ball. I like that Rodgers shoved the coach off and said it's early when they scored their second touchdown. Did you see that? Where
I saw something, right?
Yeah, to hug him, and Rodgers just pushed him away and said it's early in the game. We're up by 11 or something like that.
Right.
But the big story for me yesterday was I was talking to you about the pre-show, but I just thought it was amazing for Ohtani. I mean, just having one of the all-time great games in the history of baseball, and he does everything in style. When he joined the 40-40, he had a walk-off grand slam that night, and yesterday he has literally one of the greatest games in history. I posted it in our Discord. It's pretty amazing that no player in history has ever had a combination of all the things he did in one game in their career. So that's pretty incredible. Anyway, with all that said, I was going to wait till the Dodgers came up today to get to it, but now I'm going to
How many games are there left for the Dodgers?
What do we have? 9, I believe.
Oh, okay. So
60-60 would be impossible almost. I thought the joke has been that, okay, we were going to try and go to his game to get his 50-50, but now we're trying to talk about his 60-60.
Well, that's interesting. I never even knew that there was no 50-50s. For some reason in my head, I thought that Canseco had done it. I guess not.
He just barely scratched the 40-40. Acuna did the 40-40, 45-45.
Okay.
But last year, and then Ohtani. But it's pretty wild, especially in a day where we don't steal as much necessarily as
no.
Used to. But yeah, so this is a fun Friday game slate. Any thoughts before we jump into it?
Yeah, there's a bunch of pitchers, varying. We have some good pitchers. We have some good strikeout guys. We have the return of Jacob deGrom. I mean, it's just so Jacob deGrom. Just let's come back when the season doesn't matter. And for no reason. You know what I mean? Right. Just to get some reps, I suppose. But I think it's a good slate. We don't have any weather issues, at least that I could see.
Yep.
Ready to get after it. And these games are really starting to matter for a bunch of teams.
Absolutely, and it's tricky even keeping track of them because there's so many teams that still have a mathematical chance, and everybody's got a chance math-wise is going to play it out in baseball. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go through your screen and we'll go share your screen, and then this is it's funny because the first game we're going to start off with is going to be a surprising, and I see a lot of people out there going, oh my God, how stupid are the Tigers? They could have locked this thing up if they'd kept Flaherty, and maybe there's a point to that. I mean, it's pretty wild that they gave up Jack Flaherty, sort of giving up on the season, and he was one of the better pitchers in the American League this season, and matched with Skubal. That's probably the best 1-2 punch, and now they don't have him anymore. So. But anyway, the Tigers in Baltimore for tonight. Still, both teams obviously fighting for playoff. Well, Detroit for the playoffs, Baltimore for playoff positioning, and I think that it's an interesting game. What do you think about Burns, and what do you think about this game in general?
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, so you have Detroit and Minnesota are literally a dead tie for the last wild card. Yep. They're both 80 and 73. Now, let me ask you a question. When these teams are really, really playing to win, when you're trying to deal with pitching and stuff like that, it would seem to me, I mean, again, you know baseball better than I do. You could argue one of two ways. One is they really need to win. They're going to let their pitcher go. You know what I mean? And
Right.
on the other hand, if they really need to win, if the pitcher's like struggling at all, you know, like in the playoffs, they'll pull them and then throw the whole bullpen at them.
Right.
So I don't know how that's going to play out. How, with respect to DFS, like if you have like a game where, let's just say that Detroit was had Scooble going, you know, and how that would affect your projection of the game. I guess we'll get to it next time.
Yeah, and I think it's different for each team is probably the answer, you know, and if a guy's struggling, I think most teams will just go to the bullpen. But if it's like your ace and like Scooble's so much better than every other pitcher the Tigers have, they would probably let him roll, for example. Whereas like maybe Baltimore would pull Burns because they've got a good guys behind them. Anyway, so yeah, for this game, do you have anything that you're interested in? I know there's a lot on the slate, so.
Well, I mean, Burns is fine, you know, but it's interesting. You know, when I first started playing him a couple of years ago, I was always under the impression that he was some guy that was just like mow people down, you know, like 10, 12 strikeouts, and maybe he was. But he's I'm not saying he's worse. He's just more of a real life pitcher, I guess. I guess the best way I could describe it.
Yeah, he got better.
Yeah, exactly. Better for as a pitcher, worse for DFS, I guess.
Right.
But I mean, it's still. Why am I even saying this? I was about to say he's got a good matchup, but who am I to say that he has a good matchup against Detroit? You know what I mean? Like it's I can't even believe this. I'm looking at the standings here, and as I look at the standings, boy, these White Sox, man, that is some record, huh? I mean, I'm like looking at this. This is not even
crazy. It looks like a misprint.
This is not even real. Like this would be a record that like an NBA like franchise team would have, you know,
right.
Their first year.
Right.
These are like this team they've had the same opportunities everybody else has for 50 years, and they're 36 and 117 with one of the best pitchers in baseball, maybe.
Right.
Anyway, we'll get there. So I have Burns as kind of a very middle of the road play today, but I'm probably going to get to him, you know, because I think everybody except for I don't know where you want to do this, but everybody except for Cole has some dents, I think. Whether it be the strikeout upside or just the overall matchup or whatever it is. So I have to consider Burns in play. So Burns in play, probably not going to be my top choice. As far as hitting goes, I'm not going to play Detroit, and I'm really not getting to Baltimore either. You know, you think you would, right? Because I've never heard of the pitcher, and Baltimore's at home and they can hit the ball. I'm just currently not seeing them rated all that high. What do you think about anything this game?
So this Herter, he doesn't pitch very long in the games, but for Detroit, but he has been just awesome. I mean, he's been incredible. He just doesn't throw many pitches.
Okay.
He's what has he got now? He struck out only I guess 37 and 36
against Baltimore, by the way. Ooh.
And he hasn't done anything but, I mean, last game, but we can't take his last game and consider him playable because he literally had to thread the needle. Look, he had a perfect game, Sheets. He walked one guy. He had a no-hitter going, 5 2/3, which he'll never pitch that long. He only had 71 pitches, and they pulled him. You know, we can't play Herter with the limited pitches, I don't think. But back-to-back against Baltimore, maybe as a thin, large field team to consider. Probably not going to make it for me, but I do have Burns as a semi-priority. You still do have strikeouts in the Tigers lineup. Burns is, you know, we've seen him get roughed around at times, but other nights he does cruise. I feel like this is a good spot to you know, he's one of many guys we're going to consider. And I don't think there's any pitcher that's going to be like 50% owned today. And I think he's one of the guys that'll be in the 25% range that I'm interested in. All right, Minnesota in Boston.
All right, so we have a good park, and we have possibly fishy pitching. Festa, I mean, he's actually, I was about to say, he's put up some good games, maybe like 1 or 2 good games. Aside from that, he's very vulnerable. So I suppose that Boston's got to be in play. But again, what I try to do is I try to think instinctively of what I think's in play. Then I look at my projections. I would think that Boston should be in play, but I'm not really getting, you know, and I didn't run the Sims yet, but I'm not really seeing them rated all that high. And boy, oh boy, I would like to think that Minnesota would be in play here also. You know, I mean, I don't know what this dude is.
If he fits.
But I mean, good park. He is a righty, but so I mean, I get is Buxton still? Is he still active? Yeah, so he's 4,800.
I'm not sure he'll make the lineup, but he is active.
Yeah. So and then you have these cheapos.
Oh no, he should. I'm sorry. Never mind. He'll make the lineup. Sorry, he'll lead off. Sorry.
You have some cheapos. So I guess these guys. I guess the Twins. I would imagine the Twins should show up more. So Royce Lewis. He could put up 30, right? He could have a big day in Boston if Fitz is no good. So if you play Buxton and Lewis, yeah, I mean, why not? But again, projection-wise, I'm not really getting to them, but I have a feeling that I'm going to maybe take a few shots at this.
Yeah, that's sort of a little bit how I felt. The problem is this is like the one game where there's like, it seems like I think it's the one game where there's like some weather.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look like it's getting like a not play or anything. And Roth, shout out to Roth, has it as yellow. But I personally, like, I wanted to play it. And then I looked, there's 13-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left field. It's 61 degrees, which, like, why is it 61 degrees all of a sudden when it was 90 like the other day? You East Coast guys, I think, are a little more used to that stuff than us West Coasters. But yeah, I have everything that looks okay here, but nothing that I would consider any sort of priority. I think that Boston and Minnesota, by the end of the day, I probably will consider them, but I don't like that 13-mile-an-hour wind blowing against you. It's not fun. All right, Atlanta in Miami.
I'm going to say this. Atlanta is right now like tied, I think, with Arizona and the Mets. No. They're a little bit behind Arizona and the Mets for the last spot. All I'll say is this. The league better make sure that Atlanta doesn't get there, okay? Because they, as badly as we remember that whole first half of the season, we're like, what is going on? Like, how come Atlanta can't hit? And now they just mash it like every single game. So everybody better make sure that they don't bring like get a hot Atlanta with their hitting with Morton and Sale and all this stuff, you know, because that could be. As a matter of fact, I didn't look at the schedule. It's almost worth speculating on like the Braves at like 100 to 1 to win the series or something like that. We got to make the playoffs first, obviously.
Yeah.
But they've been just murdering it, and today they're against a pitcher I've never heard of, and they're projecting to be one of the top plays, both from a raw points and a value perspective, and I imagine they're going to be high owned, and this is going to be a common theme, and you have Olsen against a righty, you can just pencil him in for 2 home runs, I guess, like every day at this point. And Ozuna, I mean, everybody's been just been great. So. Yeah, it's baseball. You can fade anything, but I mean they've been really, really good. As far as the pitching goes, yeah, I mean Morton is one of those guys. I mean I don't think of him again as like a big strikeout guy, but he certainly looks like one of the better options today against the Miami team. So yeah, I'll put Morton with Burns and some Braves to at least start off kind of a chalky lineup. We'll get to some pivots later, but I mean, I'm not going to argue with any Atlanta.
Yeah, I like Atlanta. I understand that there's plenty of, look, the Miami's given up 30 runs over the last 2 days.
You've Albies back probably too, by the way.
Yeah, you get Albies back. You're still missing Riley and Acuna. They're really, it's
pretty scary.
The 2 best teams in the National League were just massacred by injuries. The Dodgers had enough to sustain, but Atlanta and the Dodgers lost everybody except for one guy basically. I love Morton here. I love, maybe not love, but he's my favorite, one of my favorite options on the slate. I'm not afraid to attack Miami in general, as I proved the other night. I'm not afraid to play them sometimes too, but I'll attack them tonight. Palazzo, he's a young kid. He's going to be probably okay someday. Atlanta is always a team you could talk yourself into fading for me. I feel like it's a streaky offense. This isn't the same lineup, and they have scored some runs recently, but this isn't the same thing where we're getting, 2 2 steals from Acuna, 2 steals from Michael Harris, and then we've got Albies in there as well, and Riley hitting home runs. It's just not the same lineup, but I still love them today, and they're going to be owned, or I still like them a lot, I should say. They're going to be owned, and I don't think it's going to be owned enough to where it's going to keep me off them. So I have Atlanta as one of the priority stacks.
Well, I'm just curious for a second. What is? I don't know why I'm interested in this, but let me see what the Braves. What's their schedule like? Who do they get any of these high leverage? They play Cincinnati, then they play Miami now. Oh my God, they got a 3-gamer against the freaking Mets starting the end of the week. That's for the playoffs.
Yeah, basically.
And you know what? And then probably the second hottest team hitting wise is the Mets. So
I think the Mets are the hottest hitting team.
I'm just talking about the Braves, but yeah, sure. But let's see who else they have. Mets and then KC, and I guess that's it, right? There's like no more games left.
There's 9 more for them, I believe.
So they have the series. They have 3 against Miami, 3 against the Mets, and 3 against KC.
Yeah.
KC is going to be jockeying for position as well.
Yep.
I got some good baseball down the stretch here. Anyway, Morton, Atlanta. At least that's a good place to start.
Yep. Morton in Atlanta for sure. Philadelphia in New York.
So Sanchez, another one. He's a middling option. He's a tough matchup. The Mets have been really pounding the ball. I don't want to be messing with that right now. Peterson, I try to find ways not to play him when he projects well. So when he's not projecting well, I'm probably not going to try to find ways to play him. So probably not getting there. And interestingly, I'm really not getting too much of the Phillies either. I have a couple. Listen, I hate to, each time I think about this, I'm like, trust me, I do have a couple of teams I like, but just not there yet. So I'm really kind of off of this game.
Good to make a big slate small, I say. I think it makes sense. I'm struggling with this game because I could see the upside for Peterson. He's 100 at bats against this lineup that he'll be facing. He's struck out 37 of them, so it's a pretty high percentage. And at the same time, they've hit him for some power as you would expect, and he's walked some guys. Philadelphia is awesome against lefties. It's kind of crazy because their lefties are just really good against lefties too. Sanchez much better at home than on the road. Mets good against lefties in general, but 74 miles an hour in what I still want to call Shea Stadium, Citi Field. 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing in at a bad hitter's park. I probably on a big slate, I'm going to leave it be. I think on a smaller slate, that wouldn't let the weather bother me as much, but on this slate, I have to. Seattle, Texas.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, you have DeGrom coming back. I guess 5 innings. I have no idea. I mean, certainly not going to have a full leash. I can't prove that, but I can't imagine.
It would be bizarre.
What does it say? I mean, I can't imagine. I also believe that he's probably going to get out everybody that he faces. It's like literally the dream matchup, right? It's like the righty against Seattle who flails the ball. He might get 25 fantasy points in 5 innings. It's possible. It's walking just quite the tightrope to play him. So I'm not going to do it, but I'm not allowed to be shocked or complain if he does get 25 and is optimal at 9% ownership. You know what I mean, or whatever. So, but I just the way the numbers work out, I just can't do it. Kirby, good pitcher, kind of tough matchup, sort of, kind of tough park, sort of. Doesn't really have the strikeout, so it's probably not going to make the top of the list for me. But I mean, there's no reason I need to play the hitters. I think on either team, so I'm probably off of this. Part of me just really wants to play a couple of shares of DeGrom, honestly. But there are options. I don't think I need to do that.
I feel like he's being overowned as far as I'm concerned. He threw 60 pitches in his first time back. I would guess 75. They've got him at 79, which is, again, even if you took away 4 pitches, it'll change the projection. Obviously, good matchup. If this was a smaller slate, I would be talking about stacking Seattle. I think that would be a really, really sharp thing to do on a small slate. I think there's too many options to do it on this slate. Look, Kirby, all the things, he's better at home. This game has a 7 total, by the way. Kirby, it doesn't, is got some respect as well. I can't decide because I feel like he at 0 ownership. Am I really just supposed to have no interest against? I mean, he just put up 25 against the same team. That's one good thing. But unfortunately, he gave up 1 hit and had only 3 strikeouts. So he kind of had the BABIP on his side. I'm a little worried about this back to back, but I still have Kirby as a guy I'm certainly considering as a pivot off of the chalk. So that's all I've got. I'm not getting to the hitting in this game on this slate, but like I said, I don't think it would be the craziest thing ever if you saw Seattle with Texas bullpen has been one of the worst in baseball this season, and you've got DeGrom who might only pitch. Last time he pitched 3 1/3. What if he only pitches 3 1/3 again? And by the way, it's not like he's not allowed to ever let somebody hit something. So I just thought it was kind of interesting to think about, but probably the wrong slate to do it. Houston, LA, and Houston.
Yeah, so you have Verlander, who's 7,800. Doesn't really have the ceiling that he used to, but he's still really, really good. He's going to project pretty well. I think he's good. He's probably a decent option in tournaments where you're not going to need 30. I don't think I'm going to make him a priority in stuff where you don't need 30. That's just my opinion. Tyler Anderson, again, I mean, it's just my thing. I'm always going to stack against him, and I'm going to be very frustrated most of the time, but some of the time I'm not going to be. And problem here is that usually when I end up stacking against Tyler Anderson, it's with some team like Seattle or whatever that no one's playing. But here you're going to have Houston, who's going to, I imagine, take a ton of ownership. You're going to have Atlanta. You're going to have the Dodgers, I guess, but the Dodgers are expensive. So you have Atlanta. I think Kansas City will get there. I think they'll get ownership for sure. But I got to believe that Houston's going to get owned here. So I'm probably going to end up doing some of it. They certainly project as one of the better stacks for me. And we'll just see how ownership and the Sims kind of play out. So I'm probably kind of lukewarm on Verlander. Probably pretty high on Houston. And I imagine that when I run the Sims again, they're going to give me the Angels. It's what they do. But as far as who I think are good plays, Houston and some Verlander.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with the Verlander thing. He's been really awful. I don't know. He can't strike anybody out anymore. I'm not going to totally buy that that's going to stay forever. I'm somewhat interested here. He's 7,800. It's the Angels. Literally, if it was any other pitcher, even with a similar stat line on the season, we'd probably be considering him here. I gotta put him on my list, but I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with that. On the other side, yeah, I like Houston. They make plenty of sense. I think they'll have some ownership, but it feels a little bit more spread out today.
Yeah, maybe
ownership wise. I don't really see anybody. I mean, right, early projections, not one player from any site that I've looked at has anybody above 20% owned. So maybe, and I don't know if it's probably not going to hold up. It'll sway one way, but for right now, yeah, sign me up for Houston against Tyler Anderson and an Angels team that's, basically has nothing left to really play for. There was a really it's weird because they have a 3-run projected total. This Angels. Honestly, if they showed up with a 4 total here, I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to stack against Verlander a little bit. Is what I'm saying, I guess. Maybe he's just been bad enough and he's kept the ball in play. Maybe stack's not the right thing, but I certainly wouldn't if I was getting to 3-mans of the Angels all over the place, I wouldn't cross it off. That's, I guess, my best way to put it. So I'll put the Angels down as a mini consideration. All right. The next one we have is San Francisco KC, or the other one?
I have San Francisco KC.
Great.
Why don't you start? I have to just do something real quick.
Okay, I'll start this up. Yeah, so I am not going to play Waka. That we've seen that work very well and very poorly for me. Okay, let me rephrase this. I might play Waka. I'm confused about this range. Waka and Verlander are 2 of the guys I'm the most confused about, and we have them back to back here that we're discussing. He's put up real ceiling-ish games lately. I just feel like there's better guys to play on this slate than him. But I think he's got more upside than DeGrom based on innings, at least. I don't know. I'm struggling with it, to be honest with you. The Mason Black thing on the other side, it's sort of going to be like I guess I would call it somewhat of a bullpen-ish game. Like he's probably going to pitch a few, maybe 4 innings, depending on how things are going. And I think you're going to see a lot of ownership on KC today. It's 86 degrees there. And KC is the other. Those are, I think, we nailed sort of the 3 chalk teams already, or the most chalky, but none of them are chalky enough to avoid. So I do like KC enough to put them on my list. And that's pretty much all I've got. KC, and I'm considering Milwaukee. Not sure what to do with him.
All right. So I've got a little something here. So first of all, Kansas City, as you mentioned, they're showing up as top value, and one of the, not the top, maybe like 5th best raw points. So when you combine those two, they're gonna show up as a good play, and they're gonna be owned as a good play. And M Black, nobody knows what that is. So between him and the bullpen, I think Kansas City is going to take some ownership, and that certainly makes a lot of sense. I mean, that park's really good, 85 degrees and all of it. I'm getting a very strong leverage score for some reason out of the Giants.
Okay.
And I again, this is based on my stack tool and stuff that I created, and I don't really identify any of these all too often. And I don't know what it is about this, but they're looking like just as good of a value as some other teams, and with very, very low ownership projections, at least for now. With San Francisco, you get the same issues you always get with San Francisco, that being pinch hit risk and all of that. But as long as you're diligent about which guys to play, I think that's something that you can do to get a little different over here. So I hope I get to them, and if I don't, I'll probably get to them by force. So I do like San Francisco here, just as kind of something to do. I don't think I've ever played Michael Wacha, and sometimes he smashes, but that's just not a guy I usually get to. So I'm gonna have my the Sheets hot take, I guess, is San Francisco for today.
I think it's a great take, and I'm sort of angry I didn't think of it first. Not really angry. No, I think it's a great take. And of all the things we said this morning, that's the one that sort of resonates with me the most. I could see San Francisco having an explosive game. Obviously, look, any stadium's a huge park upgrade, but it's 86 degrees. Do these guys even know what it's like to play in 86-degree weather? They play on the West Coast where every game is in the 60s. And when they're at home, every game's in the 50s. I like that idea, Sheets, quite a bit. I'm going to actually go out of my way to make sure to get some San Francisco today. I probably also, because of that, will end up with at least one Walker and one of my, I don't know how many I'm going to play yet, but he'll be in something. All right. Arizona, maybe he won't be actually. Arizona, Milwaukee.
Arizona. Meanwhile, shout out to the fat guy from yesterday.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why I thought though, and great job, all that stuff. But why does he project? He projected better than Gallen, and I'm like, what am I missing in the stats here exactly? I don't know. It's just interesting.
I don't know, because I actually like Gallen here. I mean, we're gonna get to like some super chalk to kind of close out the day. I believe. So we're kind of looking for other things to complement, and I think Gallen's perfectly reasonable. Now again, Milwaukee's they're no joke this year, so it's not the greatest matchup in the world, but. And you know what? Sometimes Gallen is frustrating when you play him. He can get it going, but then sometimes he's kind of not around the plate. So I don't know. But he's certainly on my list, 5th or 6th, something like that, and not quite getting to any of the hitting here.
Yeah, I like Gallen as well. As I don't know, contrarian. It's not really contrarian. It's just I think it's a reasonable play at lower ownership than some of the other guys. Wouldn't surprise me if he went out there and had a gem. Milwaukee is a very good offense that also can strike out. So I will take some shots with Gallen. Makes me a little nervous, but at least that's what I'm planning to do. There's too many guys I have that I've rated similar, but I like going with the lower owned ones in that situation. And Gallen's the first one, sub 15% probably that I'm interested in. So we'll see where he ends up for me, but I definitely like him. And I like an Arizona stack. Milwaukee's got a good bullpen. That's the only thing that slows me down a little bit. But this matchup versus Ray feels very much like Arizona could take advantage of it. And I don't see is this right? Less than, I mean, this could be one of the lower. This is okay. So I guess this is my San Francisco. I'll take a shot with the Arizonas against Milwaukee. They are expensive for what it's worth, so tricky, but I like it. Cleveland, St. Louis.
I don't have anything here. I mean, certainly I'm not going to get to any of the pitching, and I don't really feel like playing bats against Cleveland in general. Cleveland against who? Against Gibson? The same issue I always have with Cleveland. I mean, they'll win, they'll score, and they'll score 6, and they'll bust. They'll move around the base paths, and you can play a one-off with Jose Ramirez literally every day. But aside from that, I'm probably off of this game.
Yeah, I think we're in pretty similar situation here. I think I am off of it as well, and there's nothing that I guess people were going to own a little bit of Cleveland, and I have to point out that it still is a very cheap Cardinals thing. Now, if people really want us to 5-man stack the Cardinals against the Cleveland team, like with that bullpen, I don't personally want to, but I certainly don't mind if I end up getting to some Cardinals. And my guess is the Sims are going to lead you to some Cardinals. I'm not sure about that, but I think it will just because of the pricing. All right. Which one do you have? Yankees in Oakland or San Diego?
Yeah, I'm looking at both these games, and at the end of the day, I mean, we went through all these pitchers, and these are the 2 pitchers that are going to get all the ownership at the end of the day. It's going to be Cole and Musgrove. That's just the way it is. We'll just start with the Yankees. Cole is coming off a really embarrassing situation, which I kind of highlighted to you the other day. He was kind of cruising along, and then he intentionally walked Devers, and then the walls caved in. Got a pretty damn good get right spot against Oakland. He's Mad Cole, and Mad Cole is good for 30. Mad Cole is also good for a couple of home runs. I have to say that as well. And Oakland has definitely punished chalk, hard throwers during the season. But it's usually lefties, I think. So I am afraid, by the way, if I run these sims, they're going to want to play all this Oakland on me. Listen, we've gone over all these pitchers, and nothing has been great. I mean, it really hasn't. I mean, Burns, good real life pitcher, upside, whatever. We talked about DeGrom with a pitch count. Verlander has been weak. Gallen's fine, but not, I guess Gallen would be the best of what we discussed already. But I mean, this is kind of a pristine situation for Cole. So I think he's in a great spot. So I like him a lot. As far as the Yankees go, well, first of all, no Ginn, but what is the JT Ginn? I mean, it's a rough spot to play the Yankees. So I do have the Yankees rated really high. I don't know if you can get to them. You have 2 guys near 7K, I guess, or at least over 6K that you kind of want to play. So I don't know if we can afford them, but the Yankees certainly look like one of the high upside teams.
Yeah, the Yankees again, it's a huge park downgrade, but this team can score 10 runs anywhere. They're not going to be owned because of as you mentioned, the pricing. I think that it's worth taking a chance on them. Now, there's a lot of stacks I have to decide between, and to be honest, they're not one of my favorite 4. But who's number 5 for me is all up in the air. I cannot decide who I like next. As far as Cole goes, I agree for the most part. He's the one I feel the most comfortable with tonight, which feels weird to say because he has some big blowups. But I do like Cole, and I think that it's the chalk play. You mentioned a little bit about the Musgrove, and I agree with you that he's going to end up being another one people end up going to, including myself probably. I don't love this price on him because he doesn't tend to go very deep, and he doesn't have the same strikeout thing. So I don't maybe have him quite as high as you do. But I'm curious what you think about that game in general, and maybe even playing a little San Diego because Crochet is not throwing enough pitches.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about that. I mean, I have Musgrove as, I mean, he's fine. You know what I mean? Like he's got the cupcake matchup, and he's got the handedness in the cupcake matchup. But in a way, you're right. I mean, he's not. Even if you just look at his game logs, he's not. He doesn't throw 100.
No, he doesn't.
At 9,100, you want to throw 100. I mean, you really do. Now, again, he's been able to get there. He's been able to get 30. Dude, you got 37 in 75 pitches against the Mets.
That's amazing.
So when he gets it going, he definitely can get it going. Boy, that's the first time I think I've ever seen this. Actually, you have 2 games on his resume here with 8 Ks and no walks. I
don't even know what's happening because the Mets are usually a patient team too. Like usually the rule with him is just let him get his pitch count up early. You know what I mean? And nobody seems to be able to do it some of these times. So
yeah, so he's gonna he's a I won't say a tough fade, but it's a good play. White Sox, I hope I don't get there. I'll just leave it at that. And Crochet again. See, here's the thing: you walk this hype rope again. I mean, if you play the Padres, you just. I mean, if you're on the Padres, you want to work the counts, and survive. And listen, if you can get to Crochet, terrific. But just get through his 60 pitches, and then you get to the White Sox bullpen, and then you kill him. That's should be their plan. I'm not going to play Crochet. And you mentioned this like a month ago that we're just not going to play Crochet anymore.
Yeah.
I wonder. I mean, if he's 5K, you'd have to kind of play him.
Price is a tough question.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't think I want to play the Padres for half a game. That's just my opinion. So I'm probably going to be off.
Well, I'm going to throw a different thing out just about since they cut him back on these pitches, he hasn't been good. Like it's not like
he's not even motivated. You know what I mean? Like it's
hard. And I really don't like when teams do this with young pitchers. I think it's a huge mistake. And I don't know. To me, it's a huge mistake. So he's also been lit up like 3 of his last 6 starts. No, 3 of his last 8 starts. So I think there is some upside against him here. I don't think he's dialed in. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if you end up seeing him just getting scratched later today. I know that's kind of a weird, bold take, but I don't think I'm going to end up with San Diego because it's 60 degrees and it's not a great sitting situation. But you have the worst bullpen in baseball, and you've got a guy who's been struggling because they've been doing this with him. So it did cross my mind, but probably the wrong slate. All right, Colorado at my Dodgers.
Yeah, I'm not playing the Dodgers.
Why?
They had the huge freaking thing from Ohtani, it's all over the news. They're they're flying from Miami all the way back to LA, and against a team that's just like atrocious, like the Colorado. I can't imagine them not coming out flat for this. So I'm not going to do it. They certainly rate to be the best play. They probably have the highest total, and Freeland in a ridiculously weird way is actually better at home somehow.
I know, bizarre,
right? So I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I mean if I had it in me, I would play Colorado like the money line or something like that. That's the way I think about these things. But listen, the Dodgers do show up as the top play. Any chance Ohtani gets the day off or no?
So I think in a normal baseball situation, they would. First of all, he's only DHing, so it's not like he has to go play the field. And also, there's so much buzz about this. I read it. So there's a million, Asian tourists in LA.
Oh,
they said they estimate between 85 and 90% of them have all gone to Dodger games.
Yeah, he can't take a day off at home.
I don't think he can, and I don't think he can after breaking the record.
Yeah, you're right.
Interesting to see what happens. But the team sort of rallied behind it. I was with my family, so we were watching the whole, cheersing and afterwards because they clinched their playoff spot also. A lot of things happened yesterday. Could some guys get a day off traveling from Miami to LA after that and maybe getting a little drunk on the plane because they were doing that? Sure. You can make that argument, sure. But I think, so the Dodgers have faced Kyle Freeland quite a number of times. This is one of the larger sample sizes you'll see from anything. 210 plate appearances. 210 at bats. Plate appearances 230, and they have hit him. They've got a slug at OPS at 814. Anything over 8 is awesome if you're looking at a large sample size like that for an entire team. That's a good spot. I'm going to play the Dodgers. I understand there are other teams. They're not my only team, but I do worry. I hate the East Coast to West Coast things. I never like to play those situations. But the Dodgers against Freeland at what is appearing to be probably, like, when I first looked at the slate today, I thought the Dodgers would be like 25 to 30% each player, and like nobody's getting that much love outside of not even Ohtani. I know it's lefty, but I don't really care. I know he's 7,100, but you've got Kike, who's 24, who's going to be in the lineup tonight most likely. That's actually probably the only value you got. So it might be hard to play them. It might be hard to play the Yankees, but I think that at low ownership, we're supposed to kind of play these elite offenses. Especially in good matchups. Colorado's got the second worst bullpen in baseball. I don't know, man. I kind of have to play some Dodgers. So for me to kind of round it out, and we'll answer, Mr. Don is asking what would be a sneaky team, and then what can he help with a single entry? And he's asking, should he go pitchers first or try to make your bats? In general, I think you want to try to go pitchers first, especially in single entry. Be willing to eat the chalk and take the two best available pitchers. Would you agree with that, Sheets?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
For single entry, you don't want to build bats first than pitching, in my opinion, in general. I mean, always it's different for each slate, but in general, I would try and get the two best pitchers in my single entry build and then get different with the bats. That's a good
agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with.
And then the other thing, in terms of a sneaky team, we mentioned quite a few. San Francisco was the one that Cheats mentioned that I liked. I like my Arizona team also a little bit as a sneaky team. I mean, look, the Dodgers and Yankees aren't sneaky, but they're going to be lower owned than they should be. And I also do like Atlanta and Houston. So I'm trying and KC. So the main ones for me, Dodgers, Atlanta, Houston, but I'm strongly considering, a good portion to San Francisco, KC, Arizona, New York. So I got to make some decisions later. My favorite pitchers, Garrett Cole's number 1. I think Corbin Burns is number 2, or he or Morton. I could take my pick between those two. Musgrove would be probably the next one for me, and then deciding on what I want to do, if anything, with Kirby, Verlander, Waka. I probably don't end up with DeGrom. Wouldn't be shocked if I end up with one lineup, but probably won't be a big buy-in.
Yeah, we'll save the running of the Sims. It sounds like the running of the Bulls. The running of the Sims for the running of the Sims in Pamplona at 6 o'clock.
Okay, sounds good. All right, and then we got a football one coming up right after this.
Yeah.
All right.